Hello, and welcome to this special Christmas episode of Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 10 of Ore Monogatari. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So, seeing as how we're getting a little bit of a recap, I think this is sort of an indication that that last little story arc has ended, and hopefully we're just gonna have something nice and lighthearted, you know. Not that the last few episodes are bad or anything, but I think I definitely prefer stuff to be all lighthearted and, just stuff that doesn't weigh on me, you know? Leave my heartstrings alone. So, given that the name of this episode is My Mountain, I'm wondering if this is, for want of a better term, something that sort of comes from Yamato's point of view. Because I'd imagine if anybody had to refer to anything as their mountain, it would be Yamato referring to Takeo. And, just from the context of things I'm picking up, you know, they're sort of doing a bit of a do-over for her birthday since it was sort of interrupted. And, you know, this time they're apparently taking, I guess just the day to have a picnic out in nature, which, all things considered, you know, that's a pretty nice idea, especially if it's like a nice summer day, which it seems to be. So interestingly enough, it looks like they're going on a bit of a hike, you know. I can see it in a way. If you happen to have mountains nearby, why not have a picnic at the summit? I guess the issue now is that Takeo is in much better shape to climb a mountain. And, you know, it's not that Yamato can't do it, but I think it would only be reasonable for her to fall behind. Yeah, unfortunately it seems like this is a bit of a lapse in judgment on Takeo's part, seeing as how it's, the sign said a 2-kilometer hike, which, to my knowledge, that makes it like slightly less than a mile. So, you know, that's not terrible, but it'll definitely strain the two of them in different ways. But, you know, I guess it's not a terrible idea after all. Some nice exercise really works up an appetite. Oh dear. You know, I guess good on Takeo for having cat-like reflexes, but it's rather unfortunate that they also sort of had to fall down the mountain. I mean, I guess good on Takio for being built like a brick house, otherwise this could have gotten really bad. So I guess the question is, where do they go from here? Does he carry her back up the mountain in order to have lunch? You know, do they take revenge on that dastardly bird, as is only just? You know, I have to wonder what precisely the motive of that bird was. You know, normally I wouldn't think you would just sort of haul off and attack something shiny. I feel like, if anything, it would go after a little defenseless animal. Although that said, you know, Yamato could probably fit that description a little more readily than anyone else. So, I think I know where things are going. You know, they seem to now be kind of stranded out in the wilderness. You know, Yamato doesn't have a signal, and surely they can't be really, really stranded, for want of a better term, but I'd imagine making it back to civilization might be a bit more of a hike than either of them had bargained for. Oh, wow. Man, I guess Takio came into his physique and appearance naturally. Yeah, you know, they're all sort of saying things like, I'm sure they'll be home soon and all that. Something tells me it might be a bit of a while. I mean, especially if Makoto's reading so diligently that he can make his way through a couple books. You know, good on Takio for being utterly self-assured that they can get out of this. Even if he doesn't necessarily believe that, which I think he does, you know. Man, it seems like things aren't necessarily all that good, considering it seems like just forest for miles around. At the very least, Takio has the right goal here, you know. His first priority, so far as he's concerned, is making sure Yamato's safe. And, you know, I don't think they're in any serious danger, but, well, that's one thing, I guess. You know, if they're stranded out here overnight, that's, that presents a challenge, albeit, not one that threatens survival. You know, this sort of goes back a couple episodes to that whole business about Yamato wanting Takio to realize that, you know, she is, for want of a better term, a human being as well, with all the wants and desires that come along with that. So, you know, hand-holding is on the table, I'll say. And I think I'll leave it at that. Yeah, unfortunately, Takio is wholly in survival mode here. You know, he doesn't realize the implications of otherwise mundane actions. And I guess, you know, more to the point, if they've been walking around or hiking and all that, now's probably as good a time as any for lunch. I guess it's fortunate that Yamato made so much food, you know. No risk of starving, it seems like. Although, I'm given to understand that if you're sort of stranded out in the wilderness, it's thirst that you have to worry about more than hunger. Although that said, you know, based on Takio's estimate, this is really like a one-day affair. So, I feel like unless it's like really, really hot and they really exert themselves and they don't drink anything, they're not at any real risk of dehydration. Oh dear. I feel like Takio's getting a little too ahead of himself. You know, he doesn't quite realize what exactly the situation is, and I feel like that's going to cause an issue. I mean, it's getting dark, so it's time to camp for the night. Unfortunately, camp consists of a blanket on a bed of leaves. Not that that's the end of the world or anything, but there's just the one bed. Yeah, Takeo thinks she's scared, and that's not quite it. She's more frazzled than anything, and sticking close is going to exacerbate things. I guess that's another thing to worry about, mosquitoes. Those demonic creatures. Because, I don't think there's any, maybe history's not the right word, but, I don't think they necessarily carry malaria in Japan, but, mosquitoes, those horrific creatures, they spread a lot of disease. They are rather vicious, too. Oh dear. Unfortunately, all of Yamato's friends have gotten entirely the wrong idea about what's going on. So, maybe this is something of Yamato's fault that she's not being as clear as she could be. Hey, we're stranded out in the wilderness, but her friends all have entirely the wrong idea. This really reminds me of one of those earlier episodes where the girls were all just kind of being catty and all that. It's like, maybe you could just knock it off for a moment. Okay, so the girls are spreading it to all of Takeo's friends. Or maybe not friends, but acquaintances at the very least. And I feel like this is gonna spread all over the place. And even if it doesn't have dire consequences, they're gonna be rumors. Yeah, it's interesting in a way that everybody's life sort of revolves around the two of them. I mean, that might be slightly exaggerating it a bit, but Makoto's just reading. Takeo's parents, they don't eat nearly as much food as the three of them would together. And their collective group of other friends are just sort of talking and gossiping. It's almost as if they have nothing better to do, any of them. It's very peculiar in my mind, because I wouldn't imagine that Takeo is sort of pivotal. Maybe pivotal's not quite the right word, but I don't know, he doesn't strike me as the linchpin of his group. It would be one thing if it was the judo club just because he's built like a gorilla, but I don't know, it's not quite the same. And I guess good on Takeo for being resolved to fight off a bear if need be. That's not nothing. I don't remember the difference, but there are black bears and grizzly bears. One of them, you can scare it off by being rowdy. The other one, if you do that, you will promptly be mauled to death. And I don't remember which is which, but I feel like, Takeo's got better odds than most in terms of fighting off a bear, even if it were one of the belligerent, bellicose bears. I'm almost wondering if this whole thing is a bit of a blessing in disguise, just because having recently seen the stars from way far away from the city and all that light pollution, they are really, really beautiful. And, I've never been one to, recognize constellations or anything like that, but I did actually recognize either the Big Dipper or the Little Dipper, and I was faintly pleased with myself to have done so. But beyond that, it was just nice looking at all the stars glimmering and doing their thing out, hundreds of light years away or whatever. Oh dear. Yamato's getting ahead of herself here. I mean, they're not going to be stuck out here forever, I can't fault her to some degree, especially after that whole birthday wish thing she sort of said out loud, but, it's just a trek back to civilization that'll take, 2 days at most. And, I guess good on Yamato for caring about him. I think she might be overdoing it a little bit, Because, sure, he's worn out and all that stuff, but I feel like, there's no situation where he would begrudge her, especially not in this situation, because, I don't know, it's almost instinctual to some degree, to want to help and protect and do all that good stuff. That said, we're getting some nice stuff here. Sure, it's not an out-and-out confession where they say to each other, hey, I love you and all that, but it's a start, and it's a hell of a lot more than we get in a lot of other ostensibly romance anime. I guess that's another thing. Ore Monogatari, by and large, has gone where few anime have gone before. Alright, so at least it's something mutual, they both realize they do love each other, even if they're not sort of saying it quite yet. And you know what, I feel like that's gotta be kind of a good sign, too, that all these little woodland creatures sort of willingly flock to Takeo. I feel like there's some myth like that, creatures can tell the difference between good and evil and all that. Alright, so they've made it back to civilization, and although they're all sort of covered in bug bites and all that, they've really only made it back to a highway or something, You're not in the clear yet, and personally, I would be very reticent to walk on a highway, considering how I've seen some people drive. But you know what, I guess that's not an issue, they got a bus, easy peasy. So I guess the question is, what are the consequences for everybody failing to get a hold of them? I can only imagine that neither Takeo nor Yamato really understand the implications of what happened. And I feel like they're not really prepared for it either. I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of awkward questions that don't have good answers. Or at least, from the perspective of their friends, not satisfactory answers. When your friends ask you, how doing the deed went, you say, well, we fell off a mountain and we were stranded in the woods. It turns out that's not actually a euphemism for anything, even if conceivably one could construe it that way. I mean, all these girls, it looks like they stayed up until they literally passed out. And, yeah, they don't know yet. Or do they? Yeah, I mean, that's something alright, they pulled an all-nighter. They're being nondescript about what they're asking. And, oh my god, I thought I was going to die. That has weighty implications. Yeah, maybe you should start by saying we fell off a mountain and we're stranded in the woods. Oh, no. See, I feel like, maybe they should start asking some pertinent questions like, why are you covered in dirt? Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I'm just learning this for the first time, but, when his mom asked him where he was, he said Yamato, which is to say, the mountains, according to the subtitles. Is this just like a cheeky pun here? Because he was with Yamato at the mountains. Yeah, at least his mom isn't really, asking any pointed questions about what exactly happened. Oh no. Takeo, don't do it, man. Learning about emoticons, that's like learning dark magic, dude. That's not good. Nothing good comes out of it. I mean, I guess I get why he wants to if he was the recipient of emoticons, but you could just use words instead. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. Merry Christmas, Space Cowboy.